Thank you all for being here, especially on a snowy night. I do want to speed through my remarks a little bit so that you all are free to stay here, but I am conscious that some of you have a distance to go, and you spent a lot of time on the road to get here, and man, I really treasure and appreciate, thank you for spending that time to be here with us. 2 years ago, pre-COVID, right before it all shut down, we stood in this room. I stood in this room. You sat. Some of you hadn't been here, weren't here. And I said that May and I are setting a lifetime giving goal of $50 million to ministry. Tonight is the 2-year checkup, because we said 2 years ago that our thinking had to radically change in how we were approaching ministry and giving and business in order to achieve that. Because at the time we were at 6.5 million, and there simply were not enough years left at the rate we were going. We would have to live to 227 years, something like that. And we're just not, we're people, we're not countries. Countries can live that long. So far we haven't figured out how to do that. So tonight is a check-in. Why are you here? Christian community, accountability, you are our tribe. This year we've taken a couple of steps out. There's a couple of ministry partners here with us, and there's 1 or 2 people in the room who we're kind of having some discussions and some dreams with that were perhaps maybe our professional paths or partner paths would merge at some point. And there's a couple of people, and Trent Booth just walked in the back door. Thanks for being here, Trent, and Katie. So we're just getting started. I think you being here gives me 30 seconds. Yep.
60.
But seriously, you are our tribe, and we never want to be untethered from our tribe, especially spiritually. We always want our hearts tethered to the cross, and we want to mirror and showcase for our children and grandchildren what that looks like. We've all seen how things go wrong when that's not the case. 15 years ago, May and I had a proverbial, quickly growing financial tree in the backyard. The business that was growing had been growing for a number of years. It was accelerating, and the Christian school came along. And May and I felt called. And so we went out and got a chainsaw.
Making us nervous.
And we cut the financial tree in half, and we used the wood to go build at the school. And the tree grew, and we did it again. And the tree grew, and we did it again. And we did it for 13 years in a row. And we figured out we had, in fact, advanced the kingdom. We had in fact, blessed ministry, served the kingdom in some ways. But what we had financially was a 13-year-old stump. And what we didn't have was a 30 or 40 or 50 foot tall tree whose annual blooms and annual fruits would have been exponentially more than what we had been sawing off every year. And so on a going forward basis, the goal is to use some more responsible tools in how we give. Okay, I'm not going to attempt a joke. And I was going to make a joke about fingernail clippers and Barack Obama's tax return. Anyway, we're going to use some different tools to give on a going forward basis. The goal is to allow the financial tree to grow and to plant other trees, other businesses. And so tonight I'm going to race through goals, BHAGs, and white whales. Goals are the things that we can see and we can touch, and they are things, specific things that over the next decade we are pursuing in business, in career. BHAGs are big, hairy, audacious goals. They're on that probably 5 to 15 year range. White whales, If you read Moby Dick, they're out there somewhere. We swear we've seen them, at least in a dream. We can't touch them yet. So, with that in mind, we'll start with goals. Visionary Wealth Management is kind of the golden goose of what we're doing at the moment. And Visionary Wealth Management today is about $300 million in client assets. The goal is 10 years from now, we will be at least $1 billion. I'm not going to put a cap on that because, candidly, there are conversations going on right now that $1 billion could get blown through in 5 years. We really are blown away by the opportunities that the Lord is bringing to us. We've doubled the support staff. I think that has incredibly helped the mental health of Mark and Wendy and I, who were the only 3 people in the office for way too many years. But that's the first tree, as it were. The second tree is to build a portfolio of $50 million worth of real estate in the next 10 years. A part of that is I really hate taxes. And real estate is one very efficient, effective business model to help minimize the tax liability on income from other sources. So a Visionary is generating cash flow, and we can take depreciation on real estate, put the two of them together, the IRS doesn't get nearly as much as they thought they were going to get. So CJ, we set that goal this summer. CJ came to us and said, well, Dad, over the next 10 years, if you're going to buy $50 million worth of real estate, there's an awful lot of commissions you're going to pay, and I need a first swing at my career. So why don't I go get my real estate license and spearhead that. I'll attach myself to a team that really knows what they're doing and they can teach. And even if they pay me peanuts, which David's not going to pay her peanuts, but she's joining the Bales team with David Burris and his team, and she's going to spearhead that effort for us over the next 10 years. And the goal is to get some things right and make some mistakes in the first 5 years and start to accelerate in the next 10 years. And CJ and I had a conversation. She said, Dad, you know, you said at some point there around year 10, you went through from year 10 to year 20, you had a 10-year run where Visionary did 10x in 10 years. So if we get to 50 million in 10 years, you know what 10 times 50 million is, right? I said, yeah, I can't count that out. We are big advocates and, cheerleaders for Josh and Justice Voles and the team at Liberty. We did a transaction this past year where we took a bigger equity stake. And Bryce has decided when he graduates high school to go to Liberty University, except not the one in Virginia. So he is going to be partnering with the guys at Liberty. Hopefully, we expect in these early years he will be adding energy and a can-do spirit, nothing is impossible attitude, and then eventually he will start to add, he will add expertise and experience, and we're expecting great things from that. Bryce is also going to be spearheading, because Liberty, at least at the moment, is not year-round. Bryce is going to be spearheading a foray into NFTs, crypto, and digital assets over the course of the next couple of years. No, I don't know what any of those things are, and probably fall more on the side of they're more horse crap than they are anything else. But I would have said that 25 or 30 years ago about the internet. And so while we have the opportunity to do some pruning and some planting, I think it makes sense to do that along the way. We think it makes sense. So Bryce will be heading that. We have established a donor advised fund. Donor advised fund is a charitable entity that is set up and established to basically, in years where you have too much taxable income, you give a bunch of money into the donor advised fund and take a huge tax deduction, and then you dole it out to the ministries as you need to over time. You can manage your tax bracket effectively. So we've set that up, and we will be utilizing that on a going forward basis. And to protect all of this, we need a financial wall of security. We probably need a $5 to $7 million war chest of capital that's in more liquid assets. When markets disruption and economic disruption occurs, there are opportunities to be had, and when the bank's calling your loans and you don't have anything to protect you, the opportunities can't be capitalized on. So over the next 10 years, we need to build that war chest to protect all of this. So those are the goals. That's what we can see. That's what we can touch, I think, most of it, at least, well, not the crypto stuff. You can't touch that. It's out there somewhere. Somebody's mind. BHAGs. Big, hairy, audacious goals. If I were to paint a caricature of the ideal visionary client, the ideal visionary client is someone who's going to finish their career with $3 to $15 or $20 million in net worth. We have observed that nonprofits have a tough road when it comes to, every year, they have to run their annual event. And it's such an important event for them. They can do 30, 50, sometimes 70 or 80% of their annual fundraising and the connections right out of that one night. They have to do these events. But they have to fight everybody in town for space. They get mugged on the catering side, and they get mugged again if, God forbid, they want to serve alcohol at their event. And so, meanwhile, they fill the room with people who look an awful lot like our perfect clients. Their best donors are our best ideal clients. And so the first BHAG that we're shooting for is to build a banquet facility and new space for Visionary Wealth Management. And the goal with that facility will be to use it almost exclusively for nonprofits to hold their annual fundraising banquets at cost or free. And the goal there is to partner with those organizations, maybe organizations that we are introduced to, maybe organizations that we are already giving to, maybe organizations that our clients are already involved with, but to partner with those organizations and become a magnet for the wealth management of those ideal clients. So to get the soft introduction in an environment, well, a professional environment like that. So that's the first BHAG. The second BHAG is there are business models percolating today that would allow us to sell a piece of Visionary Wealth Management into a publicly traded company. To put things in perspective, why would we want to do that? If we sold Visionary today, we would get 2.5 to 4 times revenues. If we sold a piece of Visionary into a publicly traded transaction, the estimates are 15 to 25 times. Math may not be your thing. It's real simple. 15 to 25 is more than 2.5 to 4. Okay? So, we're not ready to do that. We would like to double and triple the size of Visionary before we did a transaction like that. But those business models are out there, and we're having conversations and we're discussing, talking in discussions with people who are pulling them off. And so that is a BHAG. 2 more real quick here. 1, we would like to be able to set up our own real estate investment funds and take our capital and put it alongside client capital, and more importantly, use the bank's money to buy the real estate. One of the things we can't do as wealth managers today is we can't apply leverage. We can't borrow money to get leverage rates of return. You can do that in real estate. I just can't do it for you yet. But the day's coming. And so that's on the BHAG. And then there is also the last one would be, we have a strategic partner, Wealth Plan Partners in Omaha, Nebraska, who's doing a great job as our registered investment advisor. The grass was greener when we moved. It's still greener than where we were. It's not as green as I think it can be. And so we are working with them and pushing them to make some changes, to make some improvements, and it may be that at some point we buy an equity stake in that national business. It is also not beyond the realm of possibility that we work with people that we are meeting and beginning discussions with now and put together a whole new national RIA and set it up and take an equity stake in that and build a whole new thing. So those are the BHAGs. The white whales. This one gets a little weird. So the real estate thing. If I take Paul's money to invest in real estate, even if I can, once we evolve the business model so that we can use leverage and we can leverage returns, he's still a passive investor. And the depreciation he can't use to reduce his actual taxable income, his earned income. Trying to figure out how to get the active depreciation tax deduction to flow through to the client. That's a white whale. And most of you in the room just went, and I understand that. 2 or 3 of you went, that's devious. Thank you. Because if we figure that out, I may wake up in Guantanamo with a cell-marked IRS. Because that indeed would be a game changer. That's why it's on the white whale list. And then the last thing would be to take all of these different apple trees, as it were, and harvest every year the profits and put all of it into a management company, call it the apple pie, and take the apple pie public. Take all of the profits and sell them on the stock market. That's what organizations like Facebook and Amazon and all of the publicly traded companies do. Ultimately, they have all of these profit centers that they've created, they've built, they take the profits, and then they take the company and they go public. That's a long way off. Okay? But it's a white whale, and so we can't touch it. I haven't seen it, but it's out there. All right. The thing that wakes me up at 3 o'clock in the morning is, who do we have to become to do that? And selfishly, who do I have to become to lead it? And the truth of the matter is, we need bigger teams, we need broader vision. We're going to need to hire more people. We're going to need to build more infrastructure. I need to be a better manager. I am not awesome. I haven't even thanked my team or thanked my wife tonight yet. That's how bad I am at this. At the affirmation side. Team, thank you. Nay, thank you. I'm great at saying there's a wall that we need to run through. Let's go run through it together. And then we get to the other side and everybody's handing out Super Bowl trophies and patting each other on the back. And I'm just going, oh, that was great. Where's the next wall? So that's my personality, and so I need, this isn't a we. We is scalable, I is not, right? So, but I need to become someone who's more we oriented. Measuring the 50 million. We are doing some really cool stuff that I don't know how to translate into how it compares to how are we hitting our goal. This past year, there's 3 examples really fast. So we did an event here with Foster the Family. The little microcosm of the business model was we wanted to spend $5 grand on entertainment, food, and booze. We wanted to raise $5 grand out of the silent auction. We wanted to match that $5 grand so that at the end of the night, we spent 10 grand and Foster the Family made 10 grand. And it worked. They ended up with 11. And then 3 weeks later, one of my clients called me because we sent out a little video to our clients and said, hey, we had this great event, so next time we hope you can join us. And one of my clients called us and said, that was a great event. I'm sorry I couldn't make it. I want to do some year-end giving. Can I match the first $10,000 you guys raised? So most of the family ends up with 21. So then we go, how many times can we do that before they put us in jail? I mean, that's almost not legal, right? So suddenly, wow, well, how frequently can we do that before May divorces me? We start asking important questions, but we're asking the questions, right? Sean Ramondo called me and said, hey, I see you doing some stuff about charitable contributions and things like that with your clients. And he said, how could we translate that into an ask? Sean Ramondo, head of Young Life, Salem County. Sorry. I said, Sean, come on over to the house. We went upstairs by one of the Christmas trees. We took my phone. We did a short little video on year-end giving and giving away highly appreciated stock. Young Life in the fourth quarter of each year usually raises about $30,000 to $35,000. In the fourth quarter last year, they raised $83,000. I don't know how. Like selfishly, I want to but do we get credit for some of that towards the $50 million? So I don't know how to quantify that against our lifetime giving goal. But boy, those are things we want to do over and over and over. Okay. So those are, and I said three. We'll leave it at those two. But so measuring the 50 million is an area where we're a little stuck. I'm a little stuck. How do we measure it? How do we? And is it even important? Because here's the reality. We're just trying to live as faithful stewards. There's one way this life ends. It's a tombstone. We ain't getting out of this life alive. And we just want to be found faithful, doing all that we can. Because if the Lord gives us the ability during our lifetimes to make a $50 million financial debt in ministry, we want to do that. We don't want to collect the first 5 or 7 or 10 and go put our feet up on a beach. I like beaches. I like beaches. But you get my point. We just want to be faithful and be working as hard as we can and diligently as we can because He first loved us. I'm listening to, Recapture Your Time or something like that, recommended by Amy Demar. It's really good. You need to read it. This line hit me. We will all die with unfinished symphonies. Because of sin, we will all die with unfinished symphonies. But man, let's be about the work that the Lord has set to us, given to us today. I have had a couple of people ask me, Wayne, it sounds like you kind of setting the sails for perfection. And we are. Because the winds are favorable today. And all I can say to that in response is that if the winds change, we'll adjust the sails. May and I are in this to the end together. I know a couple that he got MS and lived 30 years. And she cared for him to the end. And you would look at their life and say, wow, they didn't give much to ministry, and they didn't this, and they didn't that in the terms of this kind. But man, the sweetness of her spirit, the humility of his heart, and the respect and care for his wife on that road they traveled. So if the Lord gives us something different, we'll do something different, but in the days that we have, in the circumstances that we have, we want to be going. So, why are you here? There was a really, I told Trent it was a really good, I put 4x6 cards, ask for 10 referrals. You know, like somebody would stroke out right here. Why are you here? Because you're our tribe. And we want to invite transparency, we want to invite accountability, we want to invite partnership where appropriate, prayer. From all of you, every one of you, we need your prayer. I selfishly need your prayer in so many areas because I'm a really messed up guy. Then I'm not going to go into the confessional here, but you are the most influential people in our lives, and we are grateful for every one of you to a person. And within the spheres of influence of the people in this room, there are people who Josh and Justice need to meet because it's the next general manager for the next location. Side note, 2 new locations in the last 2 weeks are on the radar screen for the next year. I mean, unbelievable things popping in that business. There are people in this room who know somebody who potentially could really benefit from working with Vizionary Wealth Management. clients, partners, employees, friends. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the role you play in our lives. The last thing, one thing I have to do a lot more of, is I have to give away more books. We're reading a lot. Our teams are reading a lot more. I haven't been keeping Josh and Justice accountable lately, but the team at the office has been reading more. 2 really good books. This one I just read last week, The 7 Decisions by Andy Andrews. Amazon only let me order 20 copies. This is number 20, but please clean these out. They're out on the table on the way out. Please take them. This book was the best book I read last year, A High Impact Life by Peter Ox. I was asked by a guy who's mentoring, a couple who's mentoring May and I, he asked me to sit in on a book study with Mark Prater. Mark was doing some of you that won't know who Mark is, but many of you do. He's the head of Sovereign Grace Churches International. And so I get on the Zoom call, and sure enough, it's Mark Prater doing the head of his international ministry. He's doing a book study with like 15 people. I said, wow! They're reading this book. And I jumped into the last 2 chapters, and then I started at the front. And it literally took me 6 months to get through it, because every page I had to stop and think and sleep on it. And it just challenged my thinking in so many different ways. There are 40 copies of these out there, 39. Please feel free to clean these out on the way out of here. You are what you read. I am what I read, and I'm committed personally to reading a lot more on a going forward basis. Thank you all, really seriously, so much for being here. I'm going to ask Mark to come up and pray to close us. Trent's probably got a timer going back there. I know I missed 25, but I know I'm under an hour. 27, man! Seriously, in this context, any questions you have, insight, perspective, observations, please no Rotten Tomatoes. But before I ask you to come close us in prayer.
Do you want to mention anything about the staff mileage?
Well, I certainly doubled staff.
Yeah, but who are they?
This is just how bad I am. So we did double staff, and Rebecca Wagner, back corner back there by Trent. Becky moved back here after 25 years in Southern California. She didn't get her driver's license until after she went to California. She literally had never driven in the snow. Today is the first day. And she's got to go to the airport tomorrow, so she's just sleeping here tonight. So, and then Kate Kosovoon. And Kate... Becky came in, and the running joke is that I hired her to do one job, and she has yet to actually do that job. But what I actually hired her to do was to carve out the parts of the business that she was exceptional at and that had to be a high impact, and she is doing every bit of that. And Kate was brought in part-time in the office and part-time to help us run events. So if you've seen her serving us tonight, we're grateful for the role that she's playing in helping put together these events. So I don't think that time counts against me.